Papa Stanimus. Gotta love it. I was watching him last night. My power went out while I was watching him. It's kind of funny how that happens. Um, First thing I want to talk about was the Initiative Petition 28, or IP28, also known as the Peace Act. It failed to get onto the ballot. And this is a good thing. Some people are going to say, oh, well, no, that's a bad thing. We were trying to fight against animal abuse. No, I get it. Animal abuse is bad. No, what they are not telling you is that they were trying to reclassify what animal abuse was, and they wanted to remove exceptions like hunting and fishing, raising, doing commercial chicken farming and stuff like that. Pretty much anything. If you hurt an animal in any way and it wasn't in self-defense, they wanted to charge you with a crime. Period. No exceptions. It was anything and everything. So you wouldn't be able to do, oh my God, like you wouldn't be able to have pest control. You wouldn't be able to kill any spiders or anything like that that are going inside your house, because I'm pretty sure like by passing this, it would inherently make pesticides illegal. And then, it could even go worse, because if you can't slaughter animals to make meat, then would making meat or purchasing meat illegal itself in the state of Oregon too, if you made it to where there was no exceptions for slaughtering animals in terms of for for producing meat and stuff like that, like in certain markets and stuff like that. Like, yeah, there are certain practices that are bad that need to be paid attention to and need to be, and they should be punished. But they're just completely wanting to ban the practice of raising cattle, or like pigs or chickens and stuff like that, and then slaughtering them. Slaughtering is basically the term, but when we do this, we kill them very quick in the most humane way possible, if you want to use the term humane. But it is very fast. They don't suffer, and it's clean. Where and that's what the requirement is when you're farming or anything like that. Like if you're raising chickens and stuff like that, you can't just like beat your chickens up and hope they die and then eat them. You can get in big trouble for that. Like kicking your chickens or something. I don't know. But there's certain ways that you do things when it comes to certain practices that are acceptable, and they just wanted to remove everything, no exceptions. They just want to punish you, and not just with a misdemeanor, because if you've done this many times, because obviously they're going to be able to charge you with many different crimes, because they want to make everything illegal, from fishing to hunting to getting rid of pests in your home, to taking your pet to the vet to have them neutered, to breeding your animals if you want more animals or anything like that, for whether it's having more chickens or more dogs or cats or whatever it is that you're trying to have, from whatever business or just private adventures that you're trying to do. It doesn't matter what it is. They want to take that away, and they want to re-educate you too, because that's also in there. They want to re-educate you. Let me get into it. So I've talked about this a little bit before. It's it's got like 10 sections, I believe, in here. You know, 12, 13, 15 sections. Okay, so 15 sections. But it pretty much has a lot of jargon in here that many won't really understand as they read. Like some of it will make sense, and it is agreeable with what is in here on some of the issues, like when it comes to like we should not be sexually abusing animals, and we should be punishing people for that and stuff. And I thought we already had laws in place for stuff like that, but they kind of go and like talk about it in here. So in section 2, it first goes, well, section 1, it basically says, that the people of the state of Oregon find that animal abuse, neglect, and assault is a serious problem. Obviously, animal abuse and neglect is a serious issue, and these are issues that I think should be taken seriously. And they have these like mentioned in the bill, so these are things that you would be a proponent for and you would want this, but there's no exceptions for the other parts. So that's where there's the conflict here. So it says, the purpose of the people for elimination and cruelty exemptions, Peace Act, is to remove the current exceptions that allow for inhumane and unnecessary abuse. So they're already trying to clarify that the current exceptions put in terminology here where it makes it seem like, this is purely to stop abuse and neglect and assault. But we already have laws that protect against that. So what they're really wanting to do is remove exemptions, which is what you stated. This says in part 3 here that the provisions of this act shall be interpreted consistently with the findings, purposes, and policies, objectives stated in this section, and shall not be limited by any policy set forth in Oregon law that could conflict with or be interpreted to conflict with the purposes and policy objectives. So basically, if anything conflicts with it, they just want it to be completely just, not limited by it. It just oversteps everything, because there are a bunch of laws that are already in place that already have protections and stuff for animals and stuff like that, but they don't care. They want all those laws that we already have in place to just go away, that give the exemptions on like fishing and stuff. So we'll go into it. So it says removing exemptions, right there in big bold statement. So you should know that's what this is about. This isn't about making a law. This isn't about creating laws, because we already have laws that protect animals from animal abuse and stuff like that. This is about only removing exemptions, because that's all this does. It starts from section 2, and it literally, section 2, they want to give some definitions here on what they consider aquatic bedding, shelter, aquatic shelter, crawl spaces, blah blah blah, but the part that I want you to pay attention to is term 6 here. Right here. Now notice how it's written, right? It has these brackets around it. And it says good animal husbandry includes, but is not limited to, the dehorning of cattle, the docking of horses, sheep, or swine, and the castration or neutering of livestock according to accepted practices of veterinary medicine or animal husbandry. But notice how this is in brackets, and this is all in italic, like it looks different. So that's something to think of, that when that means is they're removing this definition, right? Because it's in brackets, it's being removed. But just like, okay, so it has like 7 here in brackets, and then, but it's actually what 6 is. So that means, so 6, which would have been good animal husbandry, is being removed in the amendment is. And then it says, but 6 is law enforcement animal. So, they established a law enforcement animal. is for 6 instead. And then instead of 8, it's 7, and that's livestock, and then so on. Instead of 9, it's 8. So it's like this weird, confusing bullshit, right? Like, and it continues on. Instead of this being 10, it's actually 9, and that's all because they removed good animal husbandry. It was removed. That's what it means when it's in the brackets. It's removed. Just like here in where it's 9 or technically 8 for minimum care, it removes for domestic animal right here. So that it removes that. So it's just for anything. It doesn't matter if it's a pet or not. It's for everything. And then that's because I think that's what that removal does. And then the removal for a livestock animal that cannot walk or stand without assistance. That's a removal. Humane euthanasia, removed. That's gone. For minimum care. To preserve health and well-being. So you can't euthanize. That's done. Provision of immediate and ongoing care to restore animal to an ambulatory state. That's gone. Removed. And so, but then it goes on to define physical injury and trauma and stuff like that. And then what is tethering? And tethering applies to any animal. Doesn't matter, domestic or not. That's what they remove the other stuff. But then it goes in here, section 3, where it starts to read that a person commits the crime of animal abuse in the 2nd degree if, except as otherwise authorized by law, necessary to defend against the threat of immediate harm to oneself, to other humans, or to other animals. The person intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly causes physical injury to an animal if they basically are not defending themselves or defending someone else. So, and right underneath that, it has in brackets, any practice of good animal husbandry is not a violation of this section. That's in brackets. So that means, boom, that's removed. That's gone. No animal husbandry is allowed as an exception to harming an animal, because good animal husbandry would be like fixing an animal, dehorning them. That was, remember, if I mentioned that earlier, that was up here in part 6 in section 2, where it was defined, and it was in brackets right here, and it was removed. So that is what they removed right here. Good, the good animal husbandry, it's gone. And so what used to be 2 goes to 3, and then now that's 2. It says animal abuse in the 2nd degree is a class C misdemeanor, but it can become a class B. It can upgrade, Then it goes into section 4. A person commits the crime of animal abuse in the 1st degree if, except as otherwise authorized by law, necessary to defend against the threat of immediate harm to oneself, to other humans, or to other animals. The person intentionally, knowing, or recklessly causes serious physical injury to an animal, or cruelly causes the death of an animal. Any practice of good animal husbandry is not a violation of this section. Notice how that is omitted. That is removed, because that is in the brackets right there. So that's gone. And then it just go. And so now what was 3 is now 2. Because these are the ORS 167.320. These are ones that already exist, and these are where they're trying to modify them. They're trying to remove the good animal husbandry exceptions and stuff like that. You read it here, and it says, that now 2 is, animal abuse in the first degree is now going to be a Class B misdemeanor. And then the next one, which is now 3 instead of 4, it says it's notwithstanding subsection, but that 2 of this section, the animal abuse in the first degree, is a Class A misdemeanor or a Class C felony if the person committing the animal abuse has been previously convicted of one or more of the following offenses. So if you've assaulted any of the animals or done any of this stuff, right, that they want you to be upgraded on your charges. Now, if you're actually like abusing animals and stuff like that, yeah, you should be charged. No one is disagreeing. No one is disagreeing that people who abuse animals intentionally should be charged with crime and put in prison. That is something I agree on wholeheartedly, whether they're physically harming them, sexually abusing them, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. They should be punished if it's actual harm. But when we are talking about animal husbandry, that just that doesn't make any sense. So let's get into it here. In section 5, it says a person commits the crime of animal neglect in the second degree if the person intentionally, knowingly, recklessly, or with criminal negligence fails to provide minimum care for an animal in such person's custody or control. Yeah. Tether is a domestic animal in the person's custody control, and the tethering results in physical injury. Now, I don't agree with that, because there's times where you may have to tether an animal and they may do something to themselves that might injure themselves, and you shouldn't. That can happen. And you might have to tether a dangerous animal sometimes. Now, domestic animal, like your dog, maybe you don't have a fence and your dog is outside, so you want to tether your dog, and the dog is antagonized by someone and they try to chase at them and they get hit by, pulled at by the tether and stuff, and they get hurt. Now you're going to get in trouble for that. I don't know. There's something around the tethering part. Like, now if it's like you're making to where they can't even go and get away from like whatever, it's like tethered like a foot away from the fence and they can't go nowhere. Yeah, that's pretty bad. But proper tethering, you can properly tether an animal like a leash, so animal neglect. So so we're going to animal neglect and stuff like that. Like I said, these are things that I already agree with, but they're wanting to change the severity of the laws and stuff like that and how you're punished. And then it goes further in where they're changing some other stuff, and there's like a section here, I believe, on like sexual abuse too. This one right here is on sheltering them, which, yeah, you should have proper shelter, but you shouldn't be responsible to make them live like they are a pet. Like they should just be able to have space to be able to get out of the rain, have a good area that's clean, they can lay down, area to eat and drink, stuff like that. Cause like for farms and stuff. So a lot of the stuff gets omitted right here. So this is something you got to see. So basically it says, for the purpose of this section, shall order and service completed an animal care facility located in Oregon, depending on the genus of the animal. Require the person convicted, do their hours. See, the animal possession prohibition description, it does not apply to the person conviction. So they like omitted this stuff right here. So yeah, they removed all of this. That's all gone. And then section 8 covers sexual assault, which I agree with, but then it gets into section 9, which is where it loses me completely. Section 9 is like the worst section. This is the one where everyone is like Like, holy shit, they're doing something fucking stupid. So they wanted to make, so like, just as it reads, it says, except as provided in subsection 2 of this section, unless gross negligence can be shown, the provisions of ORS 167.315, animal abuse in the second degree, to 167.333, sexual assault of an animal, which was this last section right here, section 8, do not apply to, and then this is all just freaking removed. It said, like, the part says the treatment of livestock being transported by the owner or a common carrier, gone. Right? That's gone. But here in bold, this is what they established early on. Situations of self-defense when it's necessary to defend against the threat of immediate harm to oneself, to other humans, or other animals. That's in bold. That's the only thing that's there. Because everything else is gone. And this is what was gone. Besides treatment of livestock right there in A. So let's go to B. Animals involved in rodeos or similar exhibitions. Now, there are some rodeos that mistreat their animals, and they should be punished. But there are a lot of rodeos that do not harm their animals. They're actually treated very well. You know, yeah, they have to get the bull agitated, but they don't hurt them, you know, anymore. Not that I know of. I think they just basically annoy them and get them riled up, basically. That's what the clowns are for. But yeah, there are some rodeos though that need to be shut down, but there are a lot of really good rodeos that are very safe, good. I mean, they have them at like state fairs and stuff like that. Like you have like 4-H and stuff, like, that participates and everything. All kinds of stuff happens at rodeos. Rodeos are safer than going to the state fair itself if you have just a rodeo, and it's fun, man, real fun. I would recommend going to a rodeo if you ever get a chance. It's very fun. Now we have my next section here that would make me go bananas because I love chicken. I love chicken, and they want to say no commercially grown poultry, so no chicken. Animals subject to good animal husbandry practices. Yeah, they've already established that up there, that they didn't want to even let the term be allowed to be used in exceptions and stuff like that. So yeah, obviously that's gone. And then the killing of livestock according to provisions. So slaughtering methods. I was talking about this earlier. So yeah, they would make it to where the law that would allow you to slaughter your animals or, kill them in a proper method to, eat them. Nope, can't do that. Next one, animals subject to good veterinary practices as described in ORS 686.030. Acts constituting practice of veterinary medicine. So all the veterinary clinics, gone. No more neutering, no nothing. Can't do nothing. You're out of business. They want to, and then in fact, I'll get into it. There's a section in here that I really hate. But I mean, obviously this section is shit because they want to take away rights, but they want there's money that they talk about too, and I'll talk about that. But besides that, so we get into fishing, lawful fishing and hunting, and then trapping activities here in Part G that is being taken out. And then they go further with wildlife management practices under the color of law. So all of the like forest rangers or any of that stuff that deal with like animals that might have to like put down an animal sometime that's doing something bad, they can't. Nope. Gotta let the animal run wild and kill people, attack campers. Well, you might not even be able to go camping either. You got laws like this that if they ever passed, they wouldn't want you to be able to go camping either. They'd want you to be stuck in a city. 'Cause that's what it sounds like. This bill was written by is a bunch of people that are stuck living in a big city. Like, I bet everyone that wrote this bill that signed it lived in Portland. So lawful scientific or agricultural research or teaching that involves the use of animals, that's gone too. Now there are like some things with animals that I think that shouldn't be done with experimenting, like, like that typical like experimenting with makeup on animals. It's like, come on, no, that's not good. Let's not do shit like that. But then you got reasonable activities undertaken in connection with the control of vermin or pests. So you can't get rid of the mice or the cockroaches. If this was a law in Texas, Asmongold would be the Roach King still. Right now, he says the roaches are gone, but with a law like that, they'd be back in a hurry, man. They'd be back, and you ain't getting rid of them because they'd make it illegal. You could be bunking up with these guys. So, and then it goes into section 10 for humane transition. Basically, this is the part where it talks about money, where it says the Humane Transition Fund is established in the state treasury, separate and distinct from the general fund. Interest earned by fund will be credited to the fund. So they want money. The Humane Transition Fund shall consist of money deposited into the fund pursuant to Section 11. Monies appropriated or otherwise transferred to the fund by the Legislative Assembly. All other monies deposited in the fund from any source, all the monies, pursuant to subsection 2B of this section, Legislative Assembly shall appropriate or transfer to the fund an amount sufficient to fully fund the grants program required by Section 12, which is down here. Section 12 is down here. Here in Section 11, it says, to the greatest extent allowable by law, all subsidies distributed in Oregon to be used for a purpose that would no longer be allowed by the implementation of this act shall instead be credited to the Humane Transition Fund. So basically, any subsidies that any of these companies or state organizations that receive, any funding they got, because, they're like the wildlife and stuff like that and game, like a lot of these jobs, they're going to go away or they'll change dramatically to where they'd have to get retrained. But yeah, any subsidies, like any subsidies that like any of the farmers may have gotten or anything like that, if they did get any subsidies, or any businesses, any subsidies they got, they want all of that. They want that. They want that themselves. And they want to put it in this Humane Transition Fund, they call. And then in Section 12, it says the Transitional Oversight Council, so whoever the hell these people would be, shall oversee and approve grants to assist in the individual and societal transition away from engaging in activities that would become prohibited by the So you want to be able to have an unelected group of assholes giving out the money that you're taking, which is possibly tax dollars, and you're just wanting to give it out as grants to whoever you want that you say is engaging in activities or to help transition away from engaging in these activities. Oh, we can't have you fishing. You're going to have to go to the nightclub instead. Sorry. But this committee, the Transitional Oversight Council may provide grants, and then existing agencies or organizations, whether government or community-based. It can be emerging or newly formed organizations, whether government or community-based. It can be private individuals, so they can just give money to private individuals. Just hand out money. This sounds like a big fucking this sounds like fraud written all over it, man. Like, you could just abuse this with fucking fraud by taking all of the money that all of the subsidies, like basically that people would have gotten, and then funneling it to whoever you want. And it could be an NGO or a private individual. Yeah. Not too happy with that. As I said, it could also help. It could also be used to help with food assistance and stuff like that. Okay, so wait, like funds for opening private or state-run grocery stores. State-run grocery stores. Yeah, no state-run grocery stores. Thank you very much. Those don't work. To replace lost income due to the implementation of this act. You're not going to be able to make up, dude. If you so this is what you got to understand. If you took away someone's right to fish and say they had a business that was involved around, say, taking people fishing on a boat, like a charter boat, you know, taking people out fishing, and then you made fishing illegal, they can sue you for damages. Ignore the fact that you're saying, oh, we're going to try and help you for the lost income. No. They're going to sue you because you did. It's not just about how much money they could make in a month or in 3 months. It's how much money that you took away that they can make in the next 5 years, 10 years, maybe the rest of the years of their lives. So you're destroying an economy. You're destroying fishing, because there's so much involved around fishing in Oregon. There's a lot of hunting here in Oregon. People travel from across the country to come here to Oregon to hunt, and they don't want that. I understand some people don't like hunting. You don't have to go. But it doesn't give you a right to make it illegal for the people who do want to go hunting and get meat that's not from a supermarket. But remember, if this passed, you wouldn't be able to buy meat from a supermarket because it would be illegal to slaughter the animals. If it's illegal to slaughter the animals, then would it not be illegal to purchase the meat? Where would the meat go? Wouldn't come here. Can't be made here. If it can't be made here, it can't be brought in. So all the supermarkets would lose profit from meat sales. All they would have would be veggies. And it'd have to be veggies that are grown with no pesticides, because you can't use pesticides because they'd be illegal, because that would be killing bugs. That was established in this too. So it'd be like third world markets, just a bunch of nasty looking fruits and veggies with flies all over the place. No meat in sight. No meat. Man, that sounds like a dystopian way to live. Sounds like an authoritarian government ruled by vegans. Why would I want to participate in that kind of world, man? So, but some good news around this. It was opposed. They had until the end of this month to get enough signatures, and it didn't make it. So thankfully, this is not going to be a up for vote and ballot. But the problem remains is that they actually plan to continue to introduce more of these bills. And they've done so many times. Let me get the AI tracking on. AI tracking. There we go. So, continuing on. We have it here that Oregon has among the most progressive animal protection laws in Oregon. Yeah, like I said, we already have a shit ton of laws here in Oregon. But the problem is they just want to remove the exemptions, which is what we need for being able to hunt and have food, meat, glorious meat. Excuse me. I've been drinking soda. So I'm a little burpy. So OVMA opposes IP28. Who is OVMA? It's the Oregon Veterinary Medical Association. Oh, of course they would be opposed because all of the vets in Oregon would lose their jobs. Like I said, all of them. And it's not just that, there's a big issue with this bill. Besides all of the just removing everything, there's no exceptions for tribes. We have a federal treaty with native tribes. They're supposed to be able to fish and do all that stuff on their land. You gave no exemptions for that. You're just like, gone. No exemptions for them. Nothing. That means you could just go in and start punishing them because of the way it's written. Because, yeah, no, it matters how laws are written. And this one, it takes too many things away. And then it makes other things they just want to punish you for if you if you take so if I take my dog out of state to get my dog neutered, am I going to get punished? Like, is that going to happen? So, but it didn't make it. So, like I said, right here, said IP28 is a ballot initiative filed with the Secretary of State for the November 2026 general election. It is anticipated that the petitioners on their third attempt, this is the third time that they've tried this. So they're going to try again. So it's the third attempt. Will obtain the required number of signatures of 11,77173 to qualify for the ballot. But supporters of the Peace Act state that the petition protects all animals from exploitation, harm, and the use of animals as commodities. To accomplish this goal, the proposed law would criminalize many farming practices by making it a misdemeanor to seriously injure, kill, or impregnate an animal unless it is in self-defense. So like I said, your animals can't have, like my dogs wouldn't be able to have puppies. They would charge me with a crime if I let them have puppies. But then they would charge me a crime for fixing them. It's okay. I'm like, yeah. Do they make it owning a pet illegal too? Is it going to make having pets illegal? But so, it goes here, it says, IP28 also criminalizes current exemptions such as fishing, hunting, pest control, slaughtering of livestock, and wildlife management in Oregon's animal cruelty laws. Exactly. We just read over this stuff. And, that's what they're talking about. It's poorly worded. Yeah, very poorly. And it appears to misunderstand or outwardly rejects accepted animal husbandry. Yeah, because it tried to completely remove animal husbandry as an exception and creates uncertainty regarding Oregon's current laws on animal neglect, animal abuse, and animal sexual abuse. Yeah, because they try to sit there and redefine parts in laws that already exist. Like we already have laws that protect against sexual abuse. But and then it says the petition could impede safe, effective animal care by criminalizing acceptable animal husbandry practices that occur regularly across Oregon, especially in our rural communities. The specific concerns include that IP28 would criminalize virtually all current lawful activities related to animals in Oregon by removing long-standing exemptions from several criminal statutes for animal neglect, animal abuse, and animal sexual abuse. Each of these exemptions has been approved by the legislature with recognition and understanding to preserve animal husbandry allowances for farming and ranching, allow for the transport and slaughter of food-producing animals, the support of scientific and educational research of teaching that involves the use of animals, permit lawful fishing, hunting, and trapping activities, and allow pest control and wildlife management. Yeah, pretty much, right? Like, this is pretty much all the shit that we read that they wanted to take out. They just wanted to get rid of all of it because they're fucking nuts. I don't know, like, these have to be a bunch of vegans that just don't eat meat. They're all a bunch of beta. If they're guys, they're beta cucks. I'm sorry, but you're going around wanting to say, yeah, let's ban fishing and hunting. No, 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 thank you. I love meat, and I love to fish. I love to hunt. I love to go crabbing. Crabbing is my favorite thing to do. You are not going to stop me from crabbing. Says how, it's bad. But that's the update. It didn't get enough signatures, so it's not going to be on the ballot. But they're going to try again. And they've said it. The people that that want this, they've said that they want it. And so, believe them.